Hey, welcome back. My name is Ed. Today we're going to be covering how to deal with bigger wires. So wires for like your battery ground, maybe an amp wire, maybe a grounding kit if you want to make your own grounding kit for a fraction of the price of buying one. I'm going to show you how to do that and what tools you need to be able to build those things. So we're going to go over the wire, putting the ends on it, shrink wrapping it, crimping it, everything that you need. And of course, we're going to do this as affordable as possible, and links to the products I'm using in this video will be in the description below. All right, so let's discuss what you need to be able to do, let's say, a grounding kit or a battery negative ground cable. On this platform and most platforms, your battery ground to your body. You can get away with 2 gauge as long as you're not doing anything super crazy with the sound system. 2 gauge will operate everything. It'll run a small amp. That'll be just fine. For a grounding kit to add additional grounds to your engine, you can get away with 8 gauge. You can get away with 6 gauge, but I like to do 4 gauge. I think 4 gauge is a really nice thickness. Also, with it being 4 gauge, if you have issues with your factory grounds, this will be able to take up a lot of that slack. Next, for the wires, you need to be able to get crimps and connectors like these. You just get the crimp size to match your wire. So if you got 4 gauge wire, you get a 4 gauge crimp, and then you match the inside hole to what you're going to bolt to. This one's going to be a little bit bigger than what we need for what we're particularly going to be using it for. This particular one is for like an M8 bolt, when really all we need is an M6 bolt hole size. But for the video, this will work. This just isn't what I normally like to use. Then you need to make it all pretty because that will look kind of ugly. So we get some rubber, plastic, whatever it is, shrink wrap. And that's going to go on there and we heat it up and it shrinks on. Now let's talk about the actual tools we need to make this happen. I highly recommend getting a heat gun for the shrink wrap. You may be able to use a lighter, torch, things like that. But I really prefer a heat gun. The heat gun has a lot of uses. Like for example, when you go get a shake and you can't get it up the straw because it's still frozen, use a heat gun, melt it, then you can drink it. I don't know why they make shakes so thick anyway. Then you need a way to cut the wire and strip the wire. I like using these. So this will cut bigger wire easily, and also use it to strip because you put the wire in and you twist it and then pull it out and you can strip it pretty easily. Next is we need to crimp the crimp on top of the wire. And we use something like this to crimp it. There's multiple different types of crimpers. This happens to be one of the cheaper ones. But it'll work. It'll make it solid. So let's interrupt this video real quick to talk about wires. I'm using today on this video is basically welding cable. And this particular one is by Spartan Power. You can get them on Amazon. What you're going to find on this type of wire compared to house copper wire is there's going to be a lot more strands in there, which makes it really flexible, which is great when you're hooking up to an engine or a car and you need to be able to move around stuff. Having that flexibility is nice. So that is why you would want to use something like a welding cable. Better yet, you can actually order cables designed for doing like battery banks and things like that, and automotive and marine quality wires. So that's the basic wire we're doing. We're using oxygen-free copper, so it is going to be solid copper. Things to watch out real quick when you're buying wire. They just say it's a 4 gauge, and it's not a 4 gauge. It's a 5 gauge, 6 gauge, 7 gauge. You'll find that on like amp wires that you buy at Walmart will be not a true gauge wire. Also, a lot of the cheaper wires are not oxygen-free copper. What they are is they're aluminum wires, and that's basically it. They're just aluminum wires. Copper wire is a lot more efficient with transferring electricity than aluminum wire is. You can use aluminum wires, but typically you got to go with a thicker gauge wire when you're going with aluminum. I have a full video on wiring. Watch that video. Now, just to be clear, what we're doing today is not how the kits that I sell for the battery grounds are made. These are the grounds that I actually make. This wire is a true gauge, double walled, automotive grade wire. It's one of the most expensive options I had for wires. I wanted the best of the best for this. The shrink wrap tubes on here are much higher quality. They're glued shrink wrap tubes. And the ends that's on top of here, this is pure copper ends with aluminum tinned outside coating to help prevent corrosion. These are really good terminals. I didn't spare any expenses when putting this kit together. And these are professionally made. These aren't made in my garage. Although, yeah, I could make cables for a fraction of the price. But I wanted to have something that was actually really good and superior to what other options are out there for the Sentra platform. And eventually I might grow to other platforms as well. That said, is there anything really wrong with the way we're doing it? No, but this is a better product, and you could make it like this, but it's going to cost you a lot more money than what we're doing today. So for today's project, what I'd like to do would be add a ground from here over to here. So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we need to do is figure out how we're going to run it and how long this wire needs to be. So it's going to go right about there, and it's going right to this bolt. So right there is where we're going to cut it. And I'll hold with my finger. Use the handy dandy cutter. There we go. It's cut. So now we got to strip the ends, and we're just going to put this in here. We're going to do maybe about a ½ inch or so. We're going to put a little bit of pressure on it and just twist the wire. And then we're just going to pull that loose. All right, next we're going to put the ends on. We'll just slide it in. Now we got to crimp it. So on top of the crimper, there's going to be numbers on here. Whatever gauge wire, that's what you make the top numbers at. Once we open it up, we're going to push this in, and we're just going to spin that until it says 4 up top here. And then we do the same thing for this side. And there we go. Both of them say number 4, so we're good to go. All right, so now that we got this set, we're going to go ahead and crimp the wire. Easiest thing to do is actually put this on the ground to close it and crimp it. That means I got to move the camera. I'm lazy. So you got to make sure the wire is kept into the lug. Once it's held in place, you can do both hands and crimp it. As you can see, the downside with this particular crimper is it has that little edge there. The ones on the website are a lot nicer crimped than this. So now we're going to do the same thing on this side here. Depending on the size shrink wrap you're using, you may need to put the shrink wrap on first before you crimp it. So we're just going to put it over the lug like that. Do the same thing on this side. And now all we got to do is heat this thing up, and it's going to look pretty professional. You don't need an expensive heat gun. The Wagner ones work really well. I've had that one for a couple years before I accidentally left it somewhere. This one's about maybe 20, 25 bucks. Wagner ones are like 30. You just put it on. Takes a second to heat up. Now it's starting to heat up. Make sure this is lined up. And we just run it past. I don't want to get this too close to the camera because I don't want to melt my camera. One side is done here. That's the side we haven't done yet. So this looks pretty professional. Besides that one crimp part, this looks pretty good. If I get around to making a full grounding kit for the Sentra, I might just make my own just to keep the price down. Because I don't know if anybody's really going to want to spend, that too much money. Is this thing smoking? Now, the direction the lugs face can make a difference. My heat gun's smoking. So don't buy this heat gun. Buy the one I put in the comment section. That is not good. You do want to put in consideration what direction these are sitting sometimes. If it's a little crooked, it's no big deal because the whole wire's twist. But if you need it to spin completely 180 degrees, that's something that you need to be aware of. And that's something that you can plan out if you're doing it yourself. But let's go ahead and get this installed. All right, so before we get everything bolted in, we're just going to line it up and make sure everything lines up right. I don't have a bolt currently here, so we're going to put a bolt there. And I think I'm going to replace these bolts while I'm at it too on top of here. And I'm going to be using my bolts that I saw on my website. And these are basically M6 bolts, so if you don't want to buy on my website, you know what you need to buy. Unlike other people, I tell you exactly what you're buying. So if you want to buy it elsewhere, that's fine. If you want to support what I'm doing, that's cool too. It is a flanged bolt, and it is a grade 8, so it's like super strong. You ain't gonna strip this thing. And yeah, it has a yellow chromate, which I think looks kind of neat. All my other bolts on my car have the same yellow color to it. And it's really great for corrosion resistance. A lot of these other bolts on my car, like the ones for the headlights here, the fenders, that's been on the car for years. Okay, we got a hand snug. And now we're going to do this side. And then we'll tighten everything down once we got the wire exactly how we want it. Because I want it to look nice and clean. I want this to look like this wire was meant to be here, not just some kid hooked up some random wire in here. Here we go, we got the factory bolt out. And just for a comparison, most of the bolts that's used on this car is about the same length. So that's the height. They're really close in height. So they're definitely going to work. That looks good. I like that a lot. As you see, we got the wire bolted here. We got it bolted here. We got nice, shiny, clean looking bolts. The wire is black, so it kind of matches in with everything else. I really like this. I think this looks good. So with the ground being right here, you have all your factory grounds there that always cause troubles. This will give a nice short run to the body. And plus we got the new cable over there for the battery. This should be pretty well solid. I am going to add some more grounds to this car. Have basically a full grounding kit for this car. And once I do that, I'll have all the measurements I need. And I will share that with you, where I bolt everything, all the measurements, everything you need to make it yourself. And if you don't want to make it yourself, then you can have someone make it for you. And if you appreciate these videos and me being open and transparent, feel free to buy it from me. If you find it someplace cheaper or better, then go for it. But yeah, if you can get the wires and make a kit cheaper than what I sell them, go for it. There's no reason to buy mine if you can get a better deal someplace. Right now, most of the things that's on the website is in stock and ready to ship. Stay tuned because I will have products that's on the website. We'll have videos on it because I will be testing it. And if you haven't been able to tell so far, like for example, my sticker video, if something's junk, I'm going to tell you it's junk. If you still want to buy it, that's on you. Thank you for watching. Aloha. Peace out. I'll catch you guys on another video. I got coilovers going in a Focus ST coming up soon. Keep a watch out for that. And I'll have a bunch of product... And I'm going to have a bunch of product review videos coming up. Of products I sell on my website. Also, other products I may have, like 3D printing or laser engraving, things like that. That's what I'm working towards. We'll see if we can get any of these companies to send me something to check out on these videos. But that would be really cool.